Depression is not the final chapter in your story. It's amazing, over the last few years, there's been this entire service area, industry created to help address mental health, but specifically in the church. We shouldn't be surprised. A lot of the people that we talk to in ministry are struggling just as much as the people that they serve. It doesn't have to be like this. The conversation today on the Life After Ministry podcast is with John Opalewski, and he shares his journey in ministry from his call to enter into ministry to his eventual burnout and resignation. And he looks at the challenges that he faced as a pastor. And these are familiar with everybody who's listening: long hours, lack of boundaries, difficulty even managing anger. And John emphasizes the importance of pastors taking care of their mental and emotional well-being and getting the help that they need when they need it, and maybe even before they need it. John started an incredible ministry that we are proud to call partners, Converge Coaching, where he helps pastors get and stay healthy and lead better, so we don't have to get to the point of burnout and struggle and resignation. Hey, welcome to the Life After Ministry podcast. I am here with John Opalewski. John, hello.
Hey, Matt. It is so good to be with you today.
Yes, and you are with Converge Coaching, and we will get into that a little bit here, but I really want to hear about your life, what got you into ministry, and then eventually there's that point of what got you out. But what was that call that God had on your life to say, like, hey, let's enter into this. There's something I have for you in ministry.
Right. So I gave my life to Jesus when I was 16. And that was a dramatic event. I was a young, unhappy, substance abusing teenager, and got invited by one of my best friends to a Christian concert, and was miraculously saved and set free from a lot of things at age 16. It was one of those night and day experiences. I woke up the next morning, Matt, and I felt clean on the inside for the first time in my life. Wow. And that was kind of like the baseline, just there was this whole new world now that's opened up to me. And but it wasn't very long after that, I found myself talking to people about finding Jesus and helping people that were newer to faith, that were running into roadblocks. And it just seemed to be this natural gifting in a way to come alongside and help people grow and develop their walk with the Lord. And I think about a year and a half after I gave my life to Christ, I started to sense this gradual tug toward helping in a more formal way. And so the call to ministry for me was a gradual call. It wasn't a dramatic call. And it came in the context of two things: me being discipled by an amazing guy, and me actually, in my own immature way, discipling other people as well. And it was in the context of that discipleship, I feel like the call was delivered to me, and then it just kind of progressed from there.
So you go into this, and just discipleship became a natural part of your life, and then the next step of this is I want to do this all of the time. The way to do that is going into ministry. Right. Did you go into seminary? Did you get a Bible degree? What was that like?
Yeah, I went to Oral Roberts University and got my degree from there. It was a Bachelor of Arts in Theology and New Testament emphasis. And it was great preparation for understanding Scripture, understanding how to communicate. Wonderful experience. The one thing that it didn't prepare me for was the day-to-day rigor of being a pastor. And, I'm not being negative about that school. It was an amazing experience. And I think that most colleges can't provide the full orbed preparation that every pastor needs. So great training, it was a very visionary type of school. I loved my time there. Then when I got into the ministry and I understood, wow, I still have a lot to learn.
Yeah, the on-the-job training.
That's right.
So what was your first really entry into pastoral ministry in the church?
I worked with students for the first 8 years. And man, I enjoyed being a student pastor. It was a lot of fun. Kids were fun. They were there was a few challenging kids in the 8 years, but by and large, working with students, high school and college age students, was just an amazing season of ministry. I loved everything about it, except I was I was working way too long of hours, and that really kind of planted some bad seeds that, I'm sure we'll probably get into some of this later, but that workaholic tendency was really coming through in those first 8 years of ministry. But yeah, started out with students.
Okay. And then did you work your way through? Because if you really stay for the full tenure of a pastoral career, you go into, there's an internship, then you're working with youth, and then you have kids, and so now you become a family pastor, and then you have to work on your marriage a little bit because now you're working on the kids, you become a marriage pastor, eventually teaching pastor, and then you're doing the senior ministry and doing the hospital visits, right? At what point did you, how far into that, process did you get, or when did you come out? Was it after ministry, youth ministry?
So I went right from youth ministry into being a senior pastor or a lead pastor.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
And so how long did you serve there in that spot?
7.5 years.
Okay.
And it was, it was going back to school, but now God was working on the inside of me. Lead pastoring was a privilege. It was an honor. It was the most challenging role I ever had in my entire life up to that point and afterward. Never had a role that was more demanding than that one. I was 29 years old when I became a lead pastor. I was really young. And I was not ready to deal with challenging people. I didn't have good boundaries. I didn't understand how to deal with difficult people. These are some of the things I didn't learn in college.
That's right. Yeah.
How to have hard conversations. And a lot of that was rooted, Matt, in some brokenness in my life that was there, and I wasn't aware that it was there. And that role squeezed me and brought that stuff to the surface.
Yeah. I remember, my seminary experience prepared me a lot to have biblical theological understanding. You get the homiletics, and this is how you apply it and work this in. But I think we had one class on pastoral care and counseling, and like just kind of paying attention to our hearts and where they're at. But really the interpersonal, and how do we deal with some of these issues that we have with parents or people who are complaining, or the elder board that's run amok, and those become surprises in ministry. Our preparation did not meet the expectation of what we were going to face in that. And so you go for 7.5 years in that position. How would you characterize those years? Was it a struggle? Was it hard? Was it really joyous, but there was just times you just came home exhausted? Like, how would you, if you were going to just put a ribbon, a bow on that season, what would that be for you?
So I'm thinking about several answers to that.
Yeah.
I jokingly used to say that before I became a senior pastor, I was pre-tribulation in my theology, but I'm pretty sure those 7 years were the Great Tribulation. So I'm post-trib now, which is, of course, a joking. It was a blend, Matt. There were some really wonderful moments. We had some great years of God doing transformational work in the lives of people, a lot of baptisms, a lot of salvations, growth on all levels. And so that part was great. It's always fun to watch people grow and change and and grow up. And so that part was amazing. Had a great board.
Mm.
And so I was so thankful for that I had a wonderful board. But what the other side of that was, and I'm not going to blame the people who were there. It was my fault. I didn't know how to draw good boundaries in relationships with my schedule. As I said earlier, I didn't know how to have a hard conversation with somebody. I didn't know what to do with my anger because, I'm a Christian, right? I'm a pastor. I shouldn't, first of all, and this was where I was really messed up. I shouldn't be angry at things. And if I am angry, I can never really talk about it. I have to submerge that anger. And unbeknownst to me, I was doing some incredible damage to my mental and emotional well-being over a long period of time by submerging that anger, absorbing some of what I would consider to be verbal abuse from parishioners. And so that was the dark side of it for me was, wow, adults are so much different than students. And I went in thinking that adults were going to love me as much as the students loved me. And the truth is, a lot of them loved me, but not as many. The percentages weren't the same. And be that as it may, it really kind of showed some of the flaws in my foundation. When we pastor out of this desire for affirmation from people, we are setting ourselves up for trouble. People pleasing, insecurity, being afraid of making tough calls because what will the collateral damage be? And again, that really wasn't my parishioners' fault. That was my fault. I hadn't grown up enough in those areas. Well, I was just totally ignorant. Let me just be blunt. And so that caused me a lot of pain, a lot of difficulty.
I'm curious because we've been having some conversations with ECFA, and they're putting out some new leadership statements and standards, and really encouraging the boards of churches and nonprofits to say, look, it's incumbent upon you as leaders of the leaders to be able to care for your pastoral staff. And I'm just curious, going in it and in even your purview now, to what extent did you need more from your elder board, and would that have even helped? And then to what extent, like I've even just been sitting in this place of like, where does that responsibility lie? You can create space for health, but ultimately that person has to be responsible for caring for themselves. But how do you lay that out, and what do you think you needed in that season?
100%. Well, I think what you said is 100% right. The pastor's mental and emotional well-being is not the board's ultimate responsibility. It's that pastor's responsibility. Now, the board can be helpful. The board can make space. They could budget for coaching, for counseling. I'm old enough that back in the day, there was no such thing as coaching, really, and counseling was only for people that were really messed up. And there was no thought of prevention. There was no thought of building resiliency before the fact. I don't know that my board back then, I don't even think there was language around any of that, Matt. And so I look back, could my board done anything differently with the information they had? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I want to bring that forward. We're living in a different time.
That's right.
And boards need to be conversant, understanding of the rigor, the demands, the toll that's being taken on their leaders, and making sure that they provide the environment, both from a resource perspective, primarily, that allows their pastor to take advantage of both preventive care and, if they need it, therapeutic care as well. And and so I think back in the day, just nobody knew. We just didn't know anything back then about this kind of stuff. Now we know so much more. And so, if you've got a lot of knowledge, the more knowledge you have about this thing, the more responsibility you have, I think, to pay attention to it. So, man, I had such a great board. They were so kind to me. And when I went through, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about what I went through experience-wise, about 4.5 years into that lead pastor role, they were so supportive of me. But I would say today that there's really no excuse for a local church and a board not to fund and make room for their pastors to have the kind of help they need. It's so much easier, Matt, to prevent depression than it is to recover from it.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So let's go there. 4.5 years into your ministry tenure, what happens, and what was the response of the church and your family and the board? What did that look like?
So I was about 4.5 years into that stint, and I had been having some problems leading up to this. I was having trouble sleeping. I was having a lot of anxiety. Waves of sadness were coming over me. I was having these crying spells. Matt, I didn't know what was happening to me. No appetite. For the first time in my life, food was not appealing to me. And it got so bad, you start not sleeping for 2 or 3 months, and it really starts to mess with you. And what had been building for, I think, years was now coming to a head. And I had a phone call with somebody I had let go a year ago, and they were creating a year prior to this event, and they were creating some waves and some trouble. And that was the last straw for me. And I went into full suicidal depression. At that time, I was 34 years old, married to Laura, my beautiful wife, 4 boys, house with a pool, a church that was growing. We had to go to 2 services to handle the expansion of people coming. Everything on the outside looked amazing, but on the inside, I was thinking about what's the least painful way to take my life. And it was, you think about seminal moments in your life. That was one of the big ones.
So for somebody who listens to this, I know the crowd of people that are listening to this podcast, I think large part understand and get it. But I hear this too many times, is despite the success of ministry, my own soul is being forfeited and rotting. How does that happen? What is is it just the wearing down? Is it I have to keep up an appearance, or the performance of Sunday morning and busting out the messages every week? Like, how do you get there to that point despite success?
And I think we all get there, maybe a different, it's not the same exact way I got there, but I think some of the elements are the same. So for me, I was working too many hours. My friendships were being neglected. I was not taking care of my physical body. I had stopped learning how to play, if that makes any sense. I was all business all the time. I, as I alluded to earlier, anger is this incredible emotion that God's created us with the capacity for. I was not managing my anger or processing my anger well. You can either be aggressive when you get angry, or you can be passive when you're angry. Both of those are bad. They're toxic. What I needed to learn was how to find that middle ground of assertiveness, and I didn't know how to do that. So all of those things just collapsed on top of me, and I fell into what I fell into. So I think for pastors, what we hear most of the time, here's some of the recurring themes we hear when we work with pastors. One, they're usually their schedule's out of control. Their friendships have dried up. They're not taking care of themselves physically. They're not getting enough sleep. They don't know how to turn off work. I worked in the corporate world for 20 years, and I'm telling you that turning off work in the corporate world was so much easier for me than turning it off as a lead pastor. But you still have to learn how to pivot from work to your personal life. And for a pastor, it is really challenging. Yeah. So I think that pastors who go down this pathway that I did, this anxiety and suicidal depression, there's going to be a lot of those elements in there, but they will be in different proportion. It won't be exactly the way it happened to me, but pretty much we can look at 4 or 5 things and know, yeah, this is probably what's fueling the depression in your life.
Yeah. So John, what brought you out of ministry? Was it this moment that continued to unravel things for you, or get me to day 0, your last day and the decision to come out of ministry?
Sure. So I started seeing a counselor right after the crash. My wife put some amazing people in my life that kind of they were my community for about a year. And I started to right size my work hours and all of that. But recovery is a long road back. And at 2.5 years, Matt, after the crash, I was still operating on probably 4 cylinders. If you are an 8-cylinder engine, I was probably running on 4. And I just made a decision that the church needed somebody running on 8 cylinders. And so I went to my board and I said, hey guys, I don't believe I can give you and give the church what it needs. And so I'm going to resign, and we agreed on a date. And it was a 3-month window there where we just pulled all the loose ends together we could. And we had a send off 3 months after I had made that decision.
Did you have any idea what you were going to do after that? And did it feel more like relief, or did it feel like absolute fear?
Funny enough, that when I made the decision that I was going to resign, I didn't have anything lined up yet. And I felt total peace. It was not what I was expecting. I was expecting to be fearful, anxiety filled, but there was just this sense of calm that it was the right decision to make. I didn't have anything lined up until almost that 3-month period was over. And what I had lined up was totally different. I went out of the vocational role into the marketplace. And I'll just say this, day 1 in the marketplace, I felt like ministry's over. And man, I never thought it was going to end like that. And so it took a little bit of getting used to the idea that, and it was just an idea, and now in retrospect, it was a false idea that my ministry life was finished. I'm just going to go into the marketplace and I'll make a living. I'll provide for my family. I still love Jesus with all my heart, and I'll attend church. I wasn't bitter in the sense of like, I'll never go to a church again because of what people did to me. So, so on and so forth. That was never part of the equation for me.
Did you continue to attend the same church that you were pastoring? Or
no, we moved. We moved away. It was a smaller community. It's one of those communities that, no matter where you go, you know almost everybody. Yep. And we felt for our own sake and the sake of the church, it would be better for us to move away. So we sold our house and we moved.
Wow. What was the title of your first job in the marketplace?
Yeah, it was. You're going to laugh. I don't even think I had a title. I was in sales,
Yeah.
and it quickly morphed into selling technology, which I knew absolutely nothing about at the time.
Right. You just kind of have to fake it till you make it a little bit, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Did you run into people afterwards, a couple months later, a couple years later, that saw you, knew you from your church context and called you pastor, said, "Hey, Pastor John," and what was your gut reaction? How did that feel?
I don't know what my gut reaction was. I know that reaction on my neck was that the hair on the back of my neck stood up. It felt it. I don't know, and I don't even know why, Matt, but it felt icky. To me, it was like, oh, don't call me that. It's just John. I'm over that now.
Mm-hmm.
If people want, I still have kids from the youth group that we pastored, a billion years ago. We run into, and they still call me Pastor John. That doesn't bother me anymore. But for probably a good 10 years, when anybody said the word pastor in front of my name, what my reaction was not positive inside. It was a negative reaction, actually.
I've asked quite a few people about this, and one of the most insightful responses that I got was that there's weight attached to that. And when you have
100%.
stepped away from that, you've also stepped away from the weight, and to be addressed like that. And it doesn't make me mad or anything like that. I just don't know what to do with it, because in my head for a while, I was like, well, I'm not that anymore.
Yeah.
And so I'm either I don't deserve that title, or some people just like that represents you're throwing something on me that I don't want to carry anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that may have been going on with me. All I know was it just didn't make me feel good when they would say it.
Yeah.
Because I think I was still healing up in a way. And that was just indicative of the work that I still needed to have done on the inside of me.
Yeah. So you've started something called Converge Coaching.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, we started it very innocently. When we about 2 years into the marketplace role, pastors started finding me. They heard about what had happened to me, and they wanted to have breakfast or have coffee because they were going through that experience, and they felt like, man, maybe John can help.
Yep.
And so I was only, like I said, 3 years into the marketplace. That would have been probably year 2000. And one pastor after another wanted to talk to me, and something fascinating started to happen, Matt. I found that they were getting helped, and I was leaving those meetings exhilarated.
Huh.
And I remember one time asking the Lord, said, Lord, is it possible that I could do something like this for a living? Because if that's possible, that would be the best job I could ever have in my entire life. And that was 11 years before we started, 12 years actually before we started Converge Coaching. So I don't know if you wanted me to fast forward to when we got rolling or not, but
tell me what the ministry of Converge Coaching is. What
right.
are you doing? Who are you helping?
Sure. So our primary audience are pastors and local churches. We do some work with denominations as well, but we started out working with pastors. It was one-on-one, starting out, coaching, and it was just me, and my wife was cheerleading. And we went into this thinking we wanted to help pastors get and stay healthy and help them lead better, lead longer, and enjoy it more. And we thought God was big enough to do all of that, that you could actually pastor a church and be healthy. You could do it well and do it with longevity, and you could have fun along the way. And I remember being looked at cross-eyed in the beginning, like, that's not possible.
Hmm.
And I said, well, just, respectfully disagree with you, that I think God's big enough to make that actually come to pass. So that was the genesis of it. I never had any idea, that it would grow into what it's grown into, but we just knew that God was calling us to work with leaders.
How big has it grown? How great is the need out there right now?
Wow. Well, that's two questions. Let's speak to the need. We know that in 2023, the burnout rate among pastors was 42%. And we think that part of that is just the normal wear and tear of ministry, but the pandemic really added to that. Yep. The top contributors to burnout are the elongated stress of the role, isolation, and the polarization of our culture, politically, racially, and all of that has created this tidal wave of burnout. There always was a burnout issue with pastors, but the pandemic actually ratcheted it up in a very dramatic way. And so I think that's the answer to the first or the second part of your question. Could you remind me, Matt, what was the first part of your question?
Well, I'm curious of, like, so how big has this gotten? You're not sitting and really kind of hoping to hit 14 to 16 pastors every year. You're working in the hundreds, if not thousands.
Yeah. So since we started in 2013, we've worked with over 16,000 pastors. We're on course this year to probably be well over 2,000. That will help this year. I can't do that by myself. We have a team of 26 now. So one of the things that surprised me was the quality of the team that the Lord's enabled us to assemble, and then just the sheer size of the team. We have coaches all over the country, and wonderful people who are well-trained, credentialed, love the Lord, all have ministry experience. Many of them are still pastoring in the local church. And so the scope of what we've been able to do, totally shocked. When I prayed, Lord, is it possible that I could do this for a living? I had no idea, Matt, what the Lord had in mind. And so I'm shocked. I'm surprised. I'm grateful. And really grateful that we've been able to influence a lot of leaders.
I'm grateful for the ministry and the work that you guys are doing. As we wrap here, would you just speak to that pastor who's in that season where you found yourself 4.5 years in, and what they might need to hear right now, and even just the conduit to hope through something that they might receive through coaching and somebody who's going to come alongside them?
So if you're listening and you're going through what I described or some version of that, I would say this to you. First of all, your life's not over. Depression is not the final chapter in your story. There is a way out. There is a pathway to health and wholeness. It's going to be a journey. It's going to be some work on your part. But it starts with finding a safe place for you to actually share what's going on in your world. I believe this, Matt, that depression is one of those burdens that's too heavy for one person to carry by themselves.
Yeah.
It has to be shared. So find a friend who is safe and understanding, and open up to them. Find a counselor or a coach. Now, coach, if you're in major depression, you're probably going to need counseling. If you're on the edge of it, coaching might be in order. Regardless, you're going to need a dispassionate third party who's skilled, who will be able to walk alongside you And you're going to need to learn eventually a new way to live and work. And it's going to be different than the way you've lived and worked up to this point, most likely. And I will say this, it will be a better way to live and work. But don't buy the thought that you're always going to feel the way you feel. You're never going to get any better. 80% of the time, if you get the right type of help, you'll not only will you get better, you will be a better version of yourself. You're not going to go back to normal because normal was not healthy. Yeah. You're going to learn a new version of health and wholeness. So be encouraged. Don't isolate, even though everything in you is screaming inside, isolate, isolate, isolate. Find safe people, professional help, and begin to walk the journey out.
I love that. How does someone get connected to Converge Coaching? And it's not just individuals. You guys work with staff teams, right? What is that on-ramp?
Yeah, so it's really simple. The on-ramp is simple. They go to convergecoach.com, and we have a link called Start a Conversation. And that gives anybody a 30-minute conversation with one of our coaches. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, Matt, in 30 minutes, we can do a lot of good. Okay. But oftentimes, help requires more than just that 30-minute session. So if we feel that more help is in order, we offer that to our wonderful pastor friends. And depending on what's going on in your world, we have a variety of coaches that might fit you to work with you. So it's really a simple on-ramp, an initial 30-minute call, and then we see what happens after that. And a lot of times what happens after that is, we end up working together, journeying together for a while to help you get your world settled again and on a healthy path.
That's great. John, I like asking this question at the end of every episode, but is there life after ministry? And is there ministry after ministry?
And the answer to both of those questions is yes. There is life after ministry. As a matter of fact, I believe this, that your calling follows you wherever you go. Ooh. Your calling, the way your calling gets expressed changes over time. One of the great discoveries was in the corporate world that I was still pastoring people. It's right. Just none of them knew Jesus. They were, so it was a different level of pastoring, but your gift follows you. Your calling follows you. So there is life after ministry. Life can be good. And there is ministry after ministry, but it may not be pulpit ministry. It may not be the kind of ministry that you have experienced in the past. God is amazingly creative in the way he can use that pastoral calling in your life. And it does not necessarily have to be within the walls of a church. So yeah, I want to encourage you, if you're wondering, man, is there, because I wondered the same thing, is my life kind of over, from a ministry perspective? And the answer is no, it's not over.
Isn't it funny that the two of us are both here, former pastors, and still very much pastoring the pastors?
That's right. Yeah, it's a blessing.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you for sharing. Thank you for the work that you guys are doing at Converge Coaching. We consider you guys partners at Pastoral Transitions, and I want to just say thanks for being on the Life After Ministry podcast.
Matt, thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Pastors need to prioritize their mental and emotional well-being. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the people that we get to help and get to serve through Pastoral Transitions are people that are coming to us when it's too late. They really should have started getting the help they needed 6 months ago, a year ago, years ago. And burnout, unfortunately, is a common issue among pastors, and the pandemic has only exacerbated it. And you don't actually have to be doing poorly in ministry to be doing poorly in ministry. We talk to plenty of people who tell us my success in ministry is actually what's killing me, and they don't know how to find their way out. So if that's you today, we want to invite you. Let's have a conversation. If you don't want to have a conversation with us, have one with Converge Coaching and John and what he's doing there, but get the help that you need. We are not just trying to help people in their life after ministry. Our preference is that we keep as many people in kingdom ministry as possible. The gospel needs it. The Great Commission depends on it. Get the help that you need. Depression does not have to be the final chapter in your story. If you want to get contact with us, it's easy. Go to our website, pastoraltransitions.com. Everything that we talk about is absolutely confidential. You can send it from your personal email. You can send it from your church email. We will never rat you out. We're here to help. If you know somebody who's struggling, send them our way. You can also send us an email at talk@pastoraltransitions.com, and you can also call us. Our phone number is 833-44-UNITY, and we would love to be able to step in and walk with you in this season. Until then, whether you are looking at life in ministry or life after ministry, we hope that you are blessed.